Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I am your host, Eric Triple E. Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR, or maybe from some of these other Locked On postcasts that we do. But this past week, we didn't have a squad show on Sunday, but you bet we were all tuned in to watch the 49ers take down those New York Giants. And unfortunately, they did not return with a D lineman, an extra D lineman in tow. The 49ers stand pat at the trade deadline.
Hey, everybody. Brian Peacock here, Locked On 49ers. McCaffrey has been the entire offense for the 49ers, but how sustainable is that going into Week 10 and beyond?
Hey, everyone. Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion. Can the 49ers defensive line sustain what they did against the New York Giants? The pass rush came alive and forced a few sacks, and hey, we even got an interception. So,
woo. Yeah, about time. 49ers Squad show starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad show starts now.
Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in today. However, you're getting us on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel or on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed. However you're listening, we appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed, however you're getting the show. And shout out all our everydayers who are always tuning in and making us your first listen for anything 49ers you need to know. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And guys, we did not have a show on Sunday, but we were all glued to that 49ers New York Giants thumping. I feel like the score was not a good indicator of how much the 49ers really controlled that game. Giants get a garbage time touchdown, and we can get into all of that in just a minute, because the biggest news of this week, I think, across 49er land is 49ers doing nothing at the trade deadline. The biggest news is a lack of news for the San Francisco 49ers right now. And I know we were all hoping and speculating, are they going to go pull the trigger for a big name like Trey Hendrickson or Quinnen Williams, or are they maybe going to go out and bargain shop for a guy that they could maybe fit in? Well, it's none of those things. And Brian, I know I'm not feeling great about that. However, we did see the D-line have some success just this last weekend against the New York Giants and a mobile quarterback. So that is something, I guess. But overall, where are you feeling about the 49ers, or what are you feeling about the 49ers not making any major moves at the deadline aside from Keion White?
Yeah, and we have to count Keion White as one of those moves. If Keion White was, maybe a Tuesday afternoon, right at the deadline edition, maybe 49ers fans would feel a little bit better about it. And to be honest with you, he probably would end up costing a fourth-round pick instead of the meager amount that the 49ers had to pay to get him a week earlier. I mean, I think if you are a smart GM, you might want to try to get those deals done a week before the deadline, because the prices that these guys were going for, there was a lot of overpays. And if you listen to the reports and you believe that the Jets wouldn't come off a second-round asking price for Jermaine Johnson, which was, I think, one of the prizes that John Lynch was potentially after, to reunite him with Robert Saleh on the 49ers defensive line, it's the right move for the 49ers not to do the second rounder in that case and stand pat on whatever they were offering. So I may be in the minority here, but I think the 49ers did the right thing by not overpaying, because I don't think this group is one that was one extra defensive lineman away from, especially with the defensive linemen that were available. They weren't going to go get Trey Hendrickson. Bengals wanted a first, and I'm not surprised the Bengals weren't able to move him. He's just hostage over there in Cincinnati now, essentially. And, you're not going to give up a second and first round pick for Quinnen Williams, and so really, I don't know if there was a deal to be made. And, Tryon Shorinka is not going to do anything for the 49ers. It's an extra body. I think they could find someone on the scrap heap and not have to even give up a late round pick, just if you're looking for a body, as they did with Cleveland Farrell, who was just out there for him to bring in and had a nice little game. I think we'll get to that, talking about that Giants game. So I think you have to roll with the team that you have right now. The prices were just too high, and it didn't make sense in the grand scheme of things. You can't just start lighting draft picks on fire just because you want to do something now. And unfortunately, the season has gone the way it's gone with all the injuries and losing Michael Williams to an ACL now. It's really difficult for the 49ers. But even through all of that, they've still been able to win 6 games. So I completely disagree with the idea that the 49ers are just, just calling it quits on the season because they didn't trade for somebody at the trade deadline, because they're a 6-win team, even with all the injuries, and they're going to be getting some guys back and hopefully healthier too to maybe help them out. And you just have to lean on your players, lean on your development. Hopefully some young players continue to look better in the second half of their rookie seasons. And maybe you get a little something out of Cleveland Farrell. Huff comes back healthy, gives you a little pass rush off the edge. Keon White, I think, still has a lot of talent. You can see how big and athletic he is, and just that projectable frame that he has, and wasn't the right fit in New England doesn't mean he won't be a good fit for the 49ers. We've seen what that's looked like for teams that were, or players that were on the outs with other teams, and how much better Charles Omenihu was on the 49ers defensive line, how much better Arden Key was on the 49ers defensive line. So have some hope for Keon White to, be that addition that they made at the deadline to at least give the 49ers a little bit of a juice on that defensive line, moving around, setting the edge on the outside, moving inside, kind of playing that role that Michael Williams was playing so far his rookie year. And so at the point, you just got to roll with the team you got. It was one of those years, and see if you can be a thorn in the side of the Seattle Seahawks, the Rams that they're going to see in Week 10, and hopefully make a run at the playoffs. But I don't think doing nothing at the deadline means that the 49ers are laying down. And I don't think whatever move was going to be out there for them was going to be the difference in them maybe not making the playoffs or winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think that you brought up a really good point, which is that the 49ers have kind of reformed castaways many times before. And one of the guys that you just brought up, Charles Omenihu, looks to me a lot like Keon White. And I know that we've talked about that on the show before. So it would be great if Keon White could produce as well as Charles Omenihu did for the 49ers. And like you said, Cleve Farrell, who they did just pick up off the scrap heap, came in and got a sack in his first game. You also had Sam Okawanu come back from injury, and he was able to cause some chaos in the backfield for Jackson Dart and the New York Giants. So those are great things. But and I hear what you're saying, and I tend to agree with you that I don't want to mortgage the future for a season where, as our guy Spy Nick Danger is saying in the chat, in a season where you can't really go all in without a Nick Bosa, a Fred Warner, a Brandon Ayuk, a Michael Williams, an injured Brock Purdy, who I think more and more may be on the Joe Burrow timeline for return from this injury, and Ricky Pearsall, who has also been banged up quite a lot this season. So it's not really the right time to go and buy, even though they've kind of checked all the boxes that we said. If this team is in a position to contend for the NFC West title at the trade deadline, they should absolutely be willing to buy. But I agree with you that overpaying like the like the Cowboys did to go get Quinnen Williams might not be the best situation for the 49ers. Still, Dwayne, if you're the 49ers and you're looking over there at the Dallas Cowboys going and grabbing Quinnen Williams, who is probably the best D lineman available on the market at the deadline, that part just doesn't sit right with me, and I'm sure it doesn't sit right with you either.
No, it doesn't, because I look at it like this, because the Cowboys had the extra picks to waste, but to go out and get a player like Quentin Williams and put him in on that defense, and they need more than him on that defense. That secondary is toast, because I thought that was one of the biggest problems of the whole Cowboy defense. It's the secondary. They're not playing very well. So even though you think that, well, we bring in another big guy inside, hey, if you can't cover nobody, the big guy inside can't help you. Because all I saw was guys getting ran by, guys getting caught on in the secondary, and they're weak at the linebacker position too. The Dallas Cowboys only got one decent linebacker, so you can't count that in. And I wouldn't have wasted my draft pick on Williams. I would have went and found somebody on the back end more than on the front, because they got some decent guys. They just went and wasted a draft pick bringing him up.
Matt Williamson and I on the new NFL Six Pack show, by the way, everybody on the Locked On Podcast Network, subscribe up. We were talking about the Logan Wilson trade, and the Cowboys were active, and they added Logan Wilson for a 7th-round pick from the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was funny because we were asking the question, okay, the worst defense in the NFL in Cincinnati and the second worst defense in the NFL in Dallas, even if you just folded both defenses together, how good would that team be if you took the best 11 off of both teams? And I'd still be maybe middle of the league defense there, even if you took the entire defense with you. So I don't know how much help there is going to be there for the Dallas Cowboys, but clearly they had to do something on the defensive side of the ball. And that's a longer term move. I still question the move for the Cowboys because was this a team that's, you're a couple games under 500 and you're going to go for it now? And I get it's a piece for the future, but that 2027 draft looks like it could be good, and you give up a second and a first. It just felt like a lot and an overpay. And, that might be a bad pick that they just gave up, a really high pick that they just gave up too. And so they obviously think they're going to be good, but I have questions about the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't see Williams as a game changer. He didn't change the game with the Jets, did he? To me, he was just out there, and maybe the Jets they have some pretty bad players too. But man,
the next time Quentin Williams is on an above 500 team will be the first time since college.
Oh wow!
Oh man, poor Jets fans, man. That's just that's a miserable stat.
and the Robert Saleh defenses were good, and the Robert Saleh teams were at least 7-10, respectable. They're a 1-win football team right now, blowing it up at least on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they Jets also trading Sauce Gardner was a huge move at the deadline. Obviously, the Colts picking up Sauce, and they look really good, man. I don't think anyone really had the Indianapolis Colts pegged as a powerhouse team in the NFL this year, but you always get one surprise like that every year, it feels like, and this year it's the Colts. But for the 49ers, you're still kind of sitting there going, what is this team? I mean, we're in week 9, and I don't know what the identity of this team is other than Christian McCaffrey is going to touch the ball 1,000,000 times a game. And if he doesn't have a good one, then the 49ers probably aren't going to win. And that's where this team seems to sit right now. And in this defense for the 49ers, it just seems like every time you get a guy back, like Sam Okawanu comes back, you have the MetLife turf monster come up and grab its 17th victim, the 17th high profile injury at MetLife Stadium, with Mikael Williams going down with that torn ACL. That's a ridiculous number of injuries that have happened at the field. And obviously, if you're a 49ers fan, you probably remember Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas both sustaining season-ending injuries at MetLife Stadium back in 2020. I mean, you had Malik Neighbors earlier this year, and there's been all sorts of studies done on MetLife to that basically show that there's no more injuries that happen there than happen in other fields. But it just feels like they're so much bigger and more devastating. I don't know, man. They got to fix that field out there. That's all I know. They got to fix that turf.
They replaced the turf, I think, 2 years ago, 2023 or something like that.
Yep.
But it's still just, I think if they replace it with the same exact turf, it's just really sticky, like cleats stick into it. And so I think those are the type of injuries you see there where your foot stays in the turf and then something else gives instead of your foot slipping out. And those are the types of injuries that end up happening there.
Yeah, another thing on those fields back there is the crown. You may not see it in the on TV, but they have a crown on the field, and the crown makes a big difference too. And all the fields to me should go back to grass. That's the way the game should be played. It should be played on natural grass and not on artificial turf.
Well, have you heard the theory that Kyle Shanahan made a deal with the devil or the football gods, as it is, in the offseason, that if Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt, he's going to lose one player per game?
I did hear that.
And I'm starting to think there might be something to that, because it's completely unsustainable with the Christian McCaffrey usage right now. He leads the NFL by far in touches. And, you kind of mentioned how if Christian McCaffrey is not going, then the 49ers offense is not going to go. But it's like, we don't even know if it would, because he's gotten every touch that there is to get. I mean, Brian Robinson touched the ball 5 times. He was averaging 10 yards per carry last week. And yet Christian McCaffrey is getting carries with 1 minute left in the game when you're up 2 scores. To me, that is unacceptable completely with the workload and the injury history of Christian McCaffrey, how important he is to Kyle Shanahan's offense. There are times when you could limit that. And I understand why he has to lean on these guys trying to win some football games, right? But at some point, there is times where you could take a couple of the carries away and take some of the wear and tear off of his body and hope that he's still going to be alive in December to help you try to go make those playoffs, because the workload's just completely unsustainable. And I've talked about it before with running backs in the NFL. And this was kind of one of the arguments I had, because I was like, man, they traded a lot to get Christian McCaffrey. And the big thing for me is it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when running backs get injured. And workload is a good indicator that a guy's, it's not going to go great if a guy has a huge workload. Now, he might make it through the season, but I probably won't draft him 1.1 in my fantasy league next year if he does make it through the season with this workload. And we're seeing how it's been a little bit more difficult for Saquon Barkley this year after the crazy workload he had last year. And he's kind of on a similar path of, has a year with injuries, has a year where he's awesome, then has another year that doesn't look as good. So I don't know. You're trying to win football games for Kyle Shanahan, but there are a few carries that you could probably at least limit. And he's so far and away the highest workload player in the NFL. I just don't know if it's sustainable. And if he's, and if he is the next guy that gets injured, then where are the San Francisco 49ers? That's kind of why it's hard to go all in on this football team with how many injuries they have, because which do you replace?
Yeah, is Kyle Shanahan is his kids using McCaffrey in fantasy teams, and he's saying, "Dad, you got to keep drilling them, Dad."
Yeah,
but like you said, hey, he had 3 touches. He looked good to me. Brian Robinson he looked great. Yeah, he was running over guys. He flat backed a couple of DBs to get in the end zone and get the guy some more touches. And give Kyle Shanahan a new play call sheet, a Brian Robinson sheet, okay?
Yeah, the ball a little bit, especially in garbage time. You're up 2 scores, a minute left in the game. And that was immediately after Michael Williams is laying on the turf.
Yeah.
And the Niners get the ball back, and what does he do? All right, let's dial it up. 23, let's go. We're up 2 scores, a minute and a half in the game. And that's unacceptable for me. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's really making those calls. And a lot of it's on Christian McCaffrey, because you know how Christian McCaffrey runs off the field, always puts the number 1 up there. He's like, I'm going to come off for 1 play, then I'm coming back in. It's like, okay, Coach McCaffrey, I guess you get to make the calls, but someone else has to step up and be like, you know what? I'm the coach. Sit your butt down. Thank you. Good job today. You're done.
Yeah. And like you said, Robinson averaged 10.6 yards per carry. He had that nice touchdown at the end of the game. He had 53 total yards of 53 rushing yards in this one. He also had the longest carry for the 49ers in this game, long of 18. So he was looking good. This is probably the best he's looked as a 49er. And he had a big kick return in this one, a 40-plus yard kick return. He was impacting the game in multiple ways in this one. But yeah, I'm 100% with you, Brian. You cannot be running Christian McCaffrey in garbage time when you have half this team either on IR or out for the season still. I mean, and not just your random, backup left guard or something like that. It's a major players on this 49ers team that have all sustained injuries this season, from your quarterback to your pass protection, to your defensive ends, to your pass rush. I mean, just everything, to your pass catchers. This whole team has been absolutely decimated by injury, but 49ers continue to trudge on 6-3. There's only 5 teams in the NFC, in the entire NFC, with 6 wins. That's tied for the most in all of the NFC. And guess what? They play another team in the NFC with 6 wins coming up this week. So let's get into a little bit of Rams talk on the other side. But I mean, this nice win over the Giants, I feel like puts the 49ers back on track. They're 6-3. They're 4-2 away from Levi's. They played 9 games so far this season, 6 of them away from Levi's. So you got a lot of 49ers home games coming up in the second half of the season. And the good news is the injuries got to start getting better at some point, right? I mean, maybe as long as Christian McCaffrey is able to be kept upright, which I did see another kind of branch of that Kyle Shanahan deal with the devil where because we saw Luke McCaffrey go down with a pretty serious injury, and he's just taken anyone with the last name McCaffrey to avoid Christian McCaffrey being sent to the season-ending injury squad that the 49ers seem to grow by a player every week.
That was a rough one too for Ed, and I'm blanking on Christian's mom's name at the moment. But Ed McCaffrey and his wife, for the first time, they were going to see
right.
Lisa. Yeah, Lisa. They were able to see both of their kids play on the same day. So they went from New York to Washington to watch the other game. And Luke McCaffrey got hurt. I think it was the opening kickoff, wasn't it? The first play of the game or something like that?
Yeah. Poor Commanders fans. You talk about bad injury luck. I mean, the Commanders are maybe the only team out there that can complain about it as much as 49ers fans. When you have your starting quarterback dislocate his elbow in a very nasty looking injury, you had McCaffrey go down. It was the collarbone, I believe, was his injury. I hope I'm not getting that one wrong. And then you had the DB go down as well, Lattimore, right? And he had an ACL as well. So I mean, that whole team, 3 season-ending injuries in one game. That's something the 49ers themselves have not even managed to accomplish this season. So
and Quinn as well addressed that, and he's like, "Yeah, that's on me. My quarterback probably shouldn't have been out there." And that was one of the knocks on Jaden Daniels coming into the NFL. Is a guy that doesn't really protect himself very much. He runs like he's when he's getting out of the pocket as a quarterback, he runs like he's a 240-pound running back or something. It's like, hey, dude, you can't take those hits, man. You got to chill out a little bit, slide, get down a little bit.
Yeah. And one thing, speaking of mobile quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, he did get his on the ground. He had 8 carries for 56 yards against the 49ers, and he had a touchdown as well. But overall, I felt like the 49ers, despite what the box score says, I felt like the 49ers defense did a good job of kind of corralling him. And those big chunks seemed to come at moments where it didn't really kill the team. The 49ers defense, especially the defensive line, which is held together by hopes and dreams at this point, seemed to really deliver in that regard. Did you see the same thing, Dwayne?
Yeah, I saw it, and I couldn't believe it was like it was the best they did all season of pressing the quarterback, but the only thing they couldn't do was catch him. They made him move around. They made him move out the pocket. They got him off his spot where he couldn't get his throw downfield that he wanted to take. And it was great, but you wish they would have had a spy on him too. And they would have probably came out with more sacks. They might have came out with 2 or 3 more sacks if they could have just caught him, because they did a good job of compressing the pocket and making him have to move around. But you could see there was no speed out there who could run him down. And if they would have had maybe Bosa, he probably could have caught him. But
yeah, Bryce Huff could have run him down, possibly.
Huh?
Bryce Huff maybe could have run him down. Dwayne, what do you think? What, as a former coach yourself, like what does a coach say to players? Because that first drive, it looked way too easy for the Giants to run down the field on the 49ers defense. And it was like, is it going to be one of those days? And then the next drive, there was just an extra pep, I felt like, in everybody's step. And the defensive line all of a sudden was just on Jackson Dart and Cleveland Farrell, looking a little slimmer than his first stint with the Niners, I felt like, by the way, and looking kind of spry out there. But like, is that something you do on the sideline? Like, what the hell was that, guys? Wake up. I know it's 10 a.m. on your body clock on the West Coast right now, but you got to play football, because they look like a completely different team the second drive on.
They were slow picking up. And the thing about it is you practice out here on the West Coast, you practice for those games. You practice at a 10 o'clock start, and you with early practices, and you get your players accustomed to being ready to play. But sometimes it takes a while for them to get going. And the thing about it is getting into, have you ever tried to get into the Giant Stadium before a game? It seems like you don't have enough time, because it's always traffic backed up and the buses are always late. And who knows what held them up from getting in the stadium early, because guys have routines, okay? If you get to the stadium late, it messes up their routine, because guys like to get up the stadium. Some of them like to walk around the stadium and listen to music. Some of them like to get out there early and jog around the stadium just to get a feel for the stadium. And sometimes that helps them get going. But when you don't have enough time, I don't think they had enough time getting there at the stadium, because of, well, like I said, when teams go into New York, you're always late for some reason. Traffic is always a problem, even with escorts. So I think that was a little bit of it. And I always believe that I don't, when you go, a lot of players like to lay up in the room and take the last bus. You don't want to take that last bus because that last bus is going to get you to the stadium late. Okay. So you have to be able to cope with, hey, man, I'm going on the early bus today. I'm not going to lay around in my room and rub my belly after I eat my pregame meal. I'm going to the stadium and get ready to play. And I think it was just a late wake up for him.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers ultimately were able to get it done against the New York Giants. And hey, 6-3 feels a hell of a lot better than 5-4 would have felt. I mean, you're sitting there with 6 wins and you're looking around the rest of the NFC. And like I said, you're tied with everybody else in the NFC and in the win column, at least. Win percentage a little different in a lot of cases because the 49ers have not had their bye week yet. But you sit there looking at the NFC West and with the Rams and the Seahawks both at 6 wins, and with the 49ers having wins over both of these teams so far this year, you look at this nice juicy matchup coming up in week 10 against the Rams, and you have to think to yourself, 49ers win this game, they'll be in the driver's seat of the NFC West. And let's get into that on the other side here on the Locked On 49ers squad show. Let's take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, and we'll get into some Rams action on the other side. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On 49er Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Brian Peacock, host of the Locked On 49ers podcast, and Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion with your, most of them with your San Francisco 49ers. And the Niners, you got a big juicy matchup against the Rams. And we talk about a guy that Dwayne used to play with on this show a lot, Ronnie Lott. And I felt like it was only right. I wore the Ronnie Lott 42 today for the Rams week preview, because I don't think anybody else hated the Rams as much as Ronnie Lott did. Dwayne, am I accurate on that statement?
You're accurate. I remember, I don't even know if you was born in 1989, but we played, played the Rams in the championship game at Candlestick Park, and Ryan was on fire. All I remember was he made one heck of a play coming from the middle of the field and knocking, I forget who the receiver was, and knocking the ball out that saved the game and put us in the Super Bowl. But he always hated the Rams. Even it was something about Eric Dickerson too. I think when we played the Rams and Eric Dickerson was in the backfield, Ronnie went to a bigger size shoulder pass for him because he wanted to light him up every time. And the year that Eric Dickerson ran for 2,000 yards, he didn't get 100 on us. Because Ronnie had the big boy pads on that game because he was blowing them up.
Yeah, one of my favorite. I mean, we've all heard all the Ronnie Lott stories over the years, but it was recently that Michael Irvin was talking Ronnie Lott, and he was saying that a lot of people talk about going in and having no fear in an NFL game and being ready to take on those hits, and Michael Irvin had no problem saying, what do you mean no fear? I was afraid every time. I had Ronnie Lott lining up across from me. You think I'm not scared? If you weren't scared of Ronnie Lott, there's something wrong with you. You should be scared of Ronnie Lott. So, I mean, that's just the kind of guy Ronnie was, and hopefully you can have someone on this 49ers defense instill a little bit of fear into that Rams heart this week. Dwayne, if there's one person on this 49ers defense that you think could maybe step up and strike a little bit of fear into the heart of the Rams, who do you think it might be this week?
Wow, you put me on you put me on the spot right there. Right now we're on defense. What are they playing with? They're playing with a bunch of guys who just learned each other's names. And it's like you sit down at the breakfast table and you introduce yourself to a new person, it seems like almost, because somebody else is coming up new. But I think the guy that's going to show up big is going to be D. Williams. That's the guy that I think will show up. And that's the guy who showed up the last game against the Rams. I thought he played well against them the last game, and you got to give it to him.
I was looking at the injury report earlier today, guys, from Wednesday. Of course, you can't really know exactly who's going to be in and who's going to be out on Wednesday. Things get a little bit realer on Thursday injury report, but no Trent Williams. He hasn't practiced Wednesday all year. Neither is Christian McCaffrey. But D. Winters and Mac Jones both on the injury report. And it doesn't say knee; it says knee, knee. They each have 2 knee injuries. I don't know if I've ever seen that on an injury report before.
Oh my
God. Winters is dealing with right now. I'll give you one. Tatum Bethune has been awesome. He will thump you. He's not the biggest, fastest guy, but he's got instincts. He's got heart. And I've been really impressed with Tatum Bethune because that was an injury that could have really derailed the 49ers on defense. And he's no Fred Warner. He's not going to be Fred Warner in coverage. But he's done a pretty good job of being a run stopper and flying around and 16 tackles last week. So it's been fun to watch Tatum Bethune and watching the young players develop. And I think Malik Mustafa is getting a little bit closer every week too to being, he's still in the preseason phase of his season because he missed everything coming into the year. So I'm looking for Malik Mustafa maybe to lay the wood on some Los Angeles Rams players too.
I think that's a good pick. The Bethune thing is a little crazy to me. I feel like he's not really gotten that much shine for what he's done, and I know that he hasn't had that, the big highlights. He hasn't had like a big forced fumble or a pick or a huge PBU on a third down or anything like that. He hasn't decleated somebody to end up on the morning show on NFL Network on Monday mornings, but he's played really good football. Like you said, a career high 16 tackles last week. That's nothing to sneeze at. He's been a very, very, very good player for the 49ers in the absence of Fred Warner. And I'm going to go with a guy who maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but the last time that these two teams matched up, Marquise Siegel had 13 tackles against the Rams. So maybe the 49ers rotate a few extra of these safeties in. Maybe they go with the big nickel against the Rams in this one and use that to kind of maybe stop some of that run game. But to me, it's going to be slowing down Matt Stafford, because I think that's the key to this one, because Stafford leads the NFL in touchdown passes and yards per game. So you're going to have to do something to slow down that Rams offense. You know that they're going to want to get the ball out quick. They're going to want Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua to go and do their thing. So Dwayne, how do you go about stopping this Los Angeles Rams passing attack?
Well, they got to make the quarterback uncomfortable. And you mentioned the last few games, it seems like Adams has come alive, and you got Puka, and you got the tight end. But the guy, to me, that you got to stop, he's got 8 touchdowns, it's Adams. So who you going to double? Well, Adams shows up more in the big red zone. I'm talking about big red zone starts from the 30-yard line in. And Puka, he's all over the field, and Matthew Stafford likes the tight end too, along the lines of, hey, he's the guy to go through when he's under pressure. He seems like he's always the guy that's going to come up and make the big catch. So with that, the Rams offense runs off of the 2 wide receivers, off of Adams when you get in the big red zone, and Puka in the field.
Yeah, it's so important to put them in those more difficult third down situations too. So, that all is going to work together. I think for the 49ers on defense is you stop the run on the early downs, try to limit Kyren Williams and make it a little bit more difficult, make it so that Matthew Stafford has to hold on to the ball, take longer, and the receivers have to run a little longer routes on those third downs and try to get him some pressure, make him uncomfortable. And Matthew Stafford has always kind of lived by the seat of his pants a little bit. He'll throw the ball to the other team sometimes. He's got that wild hair. And so hopefully you can get the ball to bounce your way, because that was one of the big keys when the 49ers beat the Rams on the Thursday night a few weeks ago, is that they got, I don't want to call it luck, but they had to make some big plays. Kyron Williams dropped a pitch. They were able to knock big Alfred Collins made the biggest play of his career so far, and was able to get his fist on a ball. Like, there was a wide open hole. Like, he got blocked, but he was able to get his hands on the football and knock it out. And so it took some really big plays for the 49ers to 4th and 1 stops to win that game. They're going to need some things to bounce their way, and taking the ball away and getting pressure however they need to is going to be pretty important there. So I'm with you, Dwayne, on that one. It's going to be a big game for this no-name defensive line the 49ers are running with. They are healthy on the interior, though. You get Kevin Givens back. You got Alfred Collins who's playing more snaps, and it's just a rotation of guys that play hard, and hopefully they come out hotter and playing faster than they did last week against the Giants.
And one thing of note, Brian, you were talking about third downs. Dwayne, you were talking about the red zone. So let's combine those two things. The Rams on third downs in the red zone, second best conversion rate in the NFL. So I think red zone defense is going to be huge for the 49ers in this one. You've got to find a way to hold them to field goals. If you're letting Matt Stafford throw that play action bomb over your head, and you're just playing underneath coverage in that big red zone like you're talking about, Dwayne, I think that they're going to go vertical on you, and you got to be able to keep that hat on top of the defense, as Dwayne likes to say. You got to make sure that you got that safety back there to prevent that big play over the top, and make sure that you're not going to bite too hard on that play action, because you do got two running backs down there in Los Angeles that can get the job done. Obviously Kyron Williams, but Blake Corum's been pretty good in spots for them this season as well. But it is going to be either Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams that hurts you from this Rams pass catching perspective, because Puka Nacua 711 yards in his 7 games played. Devontae Adams in his 8 games played 491 yards receiving. The next highest receiving total on the Rams is Kyron Williams with 166 yards. So it's going to be one of those two guys that you really got to lock in on, especially in that big red zone, and prevent them from going over the top when you might be expecting them to hit that underneath route. So that I think is going to be pivotal in this game for the 49ers. And the other side of that coin, the 49ers need to get the ball in the end zone when they are in the red zone. And specifically, the Rams have not allowed a rushing touchdown all season long. This is something that the 49ers defense did just a couple of years ago and was pretty much a staple of how they won football games. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Maybe it's not too big of a limb. I'm gonna go ahead and say right away, if Christian McCaffrey does not score a rushing touchdown in this one, I don't know that the 49ers win this game, because, and not just a receiving touchdown, he needs a rushing touchdown, because the 49ers are going to need to prove that they can keep running the football. It's the only time they seem to win football games is when they can actually run the football. So you look at the last time that these two teams matched up, McCaffrey, 2.6 yards per carry, Brian Robinson, 2.4 yards per carry. The team as a whole, 2.2 yards per carry, 33 rushes for 74 yards. You're not going to win against the Rams this week if you have a repeat of that performance. It's just not going to happen. So, Brian, what do you think the 49ers need to do to get Christian McCaffrey going and to have do as best you can to duplicate the success he had against the Giants?
That's a great question. And obviously the Rams are so familiar with the 49ers and the way they want to do things. And so the two best rushing performances the 49ers have had is when they've gone straight at the opposing team. And so, less horizontal, more vertical in the run game, a little more power, some gap stuff. And that's how they got after the Falcons. I think the Falcons are a little light on the interior and on the defensive line. And the Giants are one of the worst run defending teams in the NFL. So it's not going to be easy. And that Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams, they know Kyle Shanahan, they know what he wants to do. They're going to do everything they can to stop the run. So that's huge. And then, if they're doing a good job stopping the run, you've got to work things off of it. And so it's going to be that chess match. And it's always a good one between Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. And Kyle Shanahan has had McVay's number a lot. Can he keep it going this week? They might need some help, but I was just looking at the records too because we were talking about the Colts, and I've been a little skeptical of the Colts because you look at their opponents and the teams they've beaten. You know, they have 7 wins, but Miami, Tennessee, Las Vegas, Arizona, Tennessee again. It's like not a juggernaut. And one of the teams they lost to Pittsburgh last week. The other team they lost to is the Los Angeles Rams. And so, the best teams in the NFL might be in the NFC West right now. Seattle Seahawks are playing some really good football. And so this is not going to be an easy task. I know the 49ers won against the Rams last Thursday, but this is not an easy football game.
Now, there's only one division in all of the NFL, NFC or AFC, who has 3 teams with 6 wins or more, and that is the NFC West. And I tried to tell everybody who would listen going into this year that the NFC West is going to be a really good division, and that the Seattle Seahawks are much better than people are giving them credit for going into this season. I felt like people were kind of sleeping on the Seahawks. They were saying, you heard a lot of people say, no, they got incrementally better, but not necessarily one of the better teams in the league. I mean, you're looking down there at the NFC West, and a lot of those losses that the Rams and the Seahawks have they each have a loss at the hands of the 49ers. So this is a tough division. It's a division that's beaten up on the rest of the NFL and consuming itself when it has to. And hopefully the 49ers can win this game against the Rams, because if they do, you're now sitting there at 7-3, and you'd, I think, be in the driver's seat in the NFC West at that point in time. Obviously, the Seahawks, if they win this weekend, will still maintain a better win percentage than the 49ers. But with a win under your belt against the Seahawks, two against the Rams under your belt, I mean, it's pretty crazy to find yourself in this position if you are the 49ers, despite all the things that have happened. Like, it feels like we're talking about 2 different teams, right? We're talking about the one team that has, the most injuries in the NFL by far to key positions, and you're talking about this other team that just keeps finding a way to win, and somehow they're the same one. They're the same team. But the 49ers are making it work. They're able to kind of piecemeal this thing together, and I think you're going to need probably another Mac Jones start. And if he's able to get one or maybe both of those knees better, then maybe he can go back out there and make some more magic happen. Of course, Mac Jones in the last matchup against the Rams, he had 342 yards and a couple of touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a pretty solid game in that one. He had a big comeback moment late in the game as well. And the 49ers, I think, are going to need a receiver other than Christian McCaffrey to step up in this one, because last time was Kendrick Bourne with 10 catches for $142. I think you're going to need somebody to step up. And most notably, the somebody that I think we're all thinking of as far as pass catchers go did not play the last time these 2 teams matched up. That is George Kittle. And we have yet to see a big game from Kittle catching the ball this year. And against the Giants, he had another relatively pedestrian outing. He only had 4 receptions. This is a guy who I feel like you got to force feed him at a certain point. He only had 4 receptions for 32 yards. He only had 4 targets. I need more targets for George Kittle. We got to start like some kind of campaign for this, because it needs to build some traction, man. We keep preaching to the choir about, getting George Kittle more involved in this offense in the pass game specifically, because we all know how involved he's been in that run game, in the run blocking scheme. But Brian, what the hell do the 49ers need to do to get George Kittle the football?
Just call his number, I think, is all you got to do. And maybe it's a usage thing. It can be a usage thing. Kyle Shanahan doesn't care about usage. I don't know why George Kittle doesn't get more targets. He should be getting a dozen targets a game. I mean, and he's an easy player to scheme the ball to. He's an easy player to dump the ball off to. It just seems like everything runs through Christian McCaffrey, and then when Kyle Shanahan wants to dial up a play, he dials it up for the guys on the outside. And I get in the first game and maybe the second game, coming off 5 weeks with a hamstring injury. It was a severe hamstring injury, and so maybe you don't want to overuse him, and he's so valuable in the run game as a blocker. But I don't know. I wish I knew the answer of why George Kittle doesn't get fed the ball more often, especially when you're out all these wide receivers.
I mean, his stat line for the entire season is 12 receptions for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, we've seen him do that in 3 quarters of a game before. Like why the hell is George Kittle not getting the football? I wish we had the answers to this, because this is just I feel like getting a little bit ridiculous. But again, it's hard to nitpick at certain things like that when the team's sitting there at 6-3 and is still winning football games. It's hard to question that what Kyle Shanahan has been doing with this team, because I mean it's nothing short of a masterclass by Shanahan this year to keep this team afloat and competitive despite all of the injuries. Any other team, you lose your quarterback, your pass rusher, your middle linebacker, your top 3 or 4 wide receivers, like you're done. Like you're winning 2 games by week 10 in the NFL season. Not Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, who are sitting at 6-3 going into week 10 against the Rams. And I do think that there's going to be a little bit of revenge on the mind for Los Angeles, but hopefully you'll be able to get George Kittle going and give Christian McCaffrey a little bit of rest. You're going to need a lot of work from McCaffrey as well, but hopefully not another 30 to 40 touches for CMC in this one, although that might be what it takes to win the game. 229 total touches for Christian McCaffrey this year, by far the most in the NFL, as we were talking about earlier on in the show. Also, 1,022 yards from scrimmage, also the most in the NFL by any player this year in as far as yards from scrimmage goes. So you're going to need McCaffrey to have another big workload game, but maybe you can ease some of that by distributing the ball out there to George Kittle. Maybe take away some of the 10 targets McCaffrey is averaging and give some of those targets to Kittle and help that usage balance out a little bit. But what do I know? We're just playing offensive coordinator on the Locked On 49er Squad show. Kyle's doing it out there for quite a while at a pretty high success rate. So we'll see what the 49ers are able to dial up against the Los Angeles Rams. We got a lot more to get into here to set up this Rams week matchup on the other side of the Locked On 49er Squad show. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Today's show is brought to you by BILT. Nobody likes paying rent. I know I sure don't. But if you must, you might as well get something back for it. That's where BILT comes in. BILT is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through BILT, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, or your next Lyft ride, and more. But BILT isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. I love that with BILT, your rent finally works for you. You can finally earn points every month on something you already have to pay. And instead of just feeling like you're setting the money on fire at the end of every month, you get a little bit something back for your troubles. BILT has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbilt.com/n/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure you use that link so they know we sent you. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by my guys, Brian Peacock, host of the Locked On 49ers podcast, and Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, if you didn't know. And we got to break down this Rams matchup a little bit more. I mean, I'm thinking what the 49ers are going to mainly have to do, like we've all kind of been mulling around, is you got to find a way to slow down this pass attack. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and the pass rush is going to be a big deal. But the secondary for the 49ers has been a little bit shaky in recent weeks. It wasn't bad against the Giants by any stretch of the imagination. You hold your opposing quarterback to under 200 yards passing. That's a good day, but still a couple of touchdowns. I know one came in garbage time, but this secondary has shown some holes over the season. And Dwayne, how do you kind of patch up some of those holes? It can't just be, Diamador Lenore going mano-a-mano with Puka Nacua, or it's going to be bad news bears for the 49ers, I think. How are you going to attack these two pass catchers, specifically in the secondary for the Rams? You playing bump and run, or what do you think that the 49ers need to do?
Well, it's a tough call because you can't double two guys at the same time.
No,
it's all possible you can't. So you're gonna have to pick one guy and double, and just let the other guy hang. So the thing that's going to show up is how well can they get the pressure on Matthew Matthew Stafford. If they can push the pocket enough, fast enough, so he can get the ball out. And with the rush that been showing up, it hasn't been the kind of rush that we like. But it's going to be one of those games where if they can only run, I've always said it, when you start running stunts up front, you start gaming up front and having your linebacker include him in the rush if his back is in blocking. That helps. So you, instead of rushing 4, you got a hug rusher that's coming that makes it 5 rushes and keeps the back end so the other guys on the tail end can work. But you're looking at 2 great receivers. Okay, so take your poison. Who you want to cloud first? You want to cloud Puka or do you want to cloud Adams? I would probably say I would put my best cover guy on Adams and work the double on Puka, and hopefully you make Matthew Stafford have to go to his tight end, and I think we'll match up pretty well on the tight end myself. So that's the key to the game to me is how well will they be able to handle the double team, doubling one receiver or disguising 2, but you can't disguise that much on an old quarterback because he knows as soon as he gets the ball in his hands and he sees the 2 safeties dropping, he knows the coverage right away. So it's not one of those things where you're gonna fool him.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you. I think if you're going to pick a guy to double, it should be Devontae Adams. I know that Puka Nacua has the big receiving totals so far this year, but Devontae Adams has been really good at catching touchdowns for the Rams, and I think that you're going to need to do something to slow him down. He's got 8 touchdown receptions on the season. So we were talking about earlier that red zone, that big red zone area that the 49ers, I think, are going to have to stand tall in. I think that's going to be a huge key in this game. It's Devontae Adams in that area that, in my opinion, you're going to need to slow down. He doesn't have the 700 plus yards that Puka Nacua has, but again, he's got 8 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns to be having by week 10 of the season. I mean, through 9 weeks and a bye included in there, he's averaging a touchdown a game. So, I mean, you got to find a way to prevent this guy from hurting you in that red zone where the Rams are going to likely try to stretch the field a little bit in that big red zone and go over the top when the 49ers are locking down that underneath coverage. So I agree with you that you got to try and double Devontae Adams, especially in that red zone. But on the other side of that same coin, 49ers pass catchers, I think they're going to have some tough sledding against this Rams secondary. You do have Ricky Pearsall still not practicing, but you got Kittle out there. You got Kendrick Bourne. Juwan Jennings is still a little bit banged up. He didn't practice today either. You maybe hope that you can get one of those guys back. Jordan Watkins also back being held out from practice. So you're back to wide receiver by committee, or maybe not back to, but just more of the same of wide receiver by committee. Brian, is this another Kendrick Bourne game? Is this another MAC 10 to KB masterclass against the Rams?
Yeah, it's an everybody game. It's an all hands on deck game, and the Rams defense is really playing good. In fact, the Rams haven't given up more than 10 points since that Week 5 game against the 49ers, and it was in overtime, but the 26 points they gave up to the Niners in Week 5 is the most they've given up all season. They also gave up 26 to the I take that back. The Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Rams in Week 3, and so they gave up 33 to the Eagles, 26 to the Niners, and it's hard to score multiple touchdowns on this Rams defense. They gave up 3, 7, and 10 in the last 3 games on the defensive side of the ball. And I think the most impressive game of those is probably, the Baltimore Ravens. They only scored 3 points on them, but they were without Lamar Jackson. The Jacksonville Jaguars offense came to play against the 49ers, but the Rams thumped the Jags and kind of sent the Jags into a tailspin. They haven't been quite the same team, and they were coming off a big win against the Niners, and then the Rams thumped them 35-7. And so that Rams team, they're good up front. They play fast. They play furious. And they got a little help in the secondary, and you got to stay in front of the sticks if you're the 49ers. I think it's huge, and try to take advantage of their weakness, which is in the back end. And I think there is an opportunity for guys to get open, whether it's KB, whether it's Demarcus Robinson, maybe it's George Kittle down the seam. I think that is the best way to defeat the Rams defense.
Maybe a Demarcus Robinson revenge game. We were talking about that maybe being a possibility in that first matchup, but I'd like to see him make a bigger impact than he's made. He's done a whole lot of nothing for the 49ers so far this year. It's about time for Robinson to have a big game. This would be a great spot for it to come.
And how about the rookie Watkins getting a little bit more involved now? And he's over his injury stuff. And I don't know what's going on with Jacob County, which a little speed out there for the 49ers offense, I think would be helpful. So maybe you can get Watkins loose on the back end. Maybe Kyle's got something up his sleeve to get one of these, to get a young speedy guy loose, because the 49ers are short on young speedy guys right now on offense.
Yeah, you're going to have to find some kind of a way to break through, because as you just broke it down for us, the Rams have only allowed 20 points in those 3 games since giving up the 26 to the 49ers. And I mean, this team has won, obviously, all 3 of those games, as you would expect them to have done. So this is a team that's red hot, and they barely lost that game to the 49ers. You know that team is sitting there playing a little bit of shoulda, coulda, woulda with that football game, and thinking about where they might be if they had in fact beat the 49ers and were one of the few 7-win teams in the NFL. They would be in a great position in the NFC to keep that first overall seed as we near kind of the you could start kind of reading the tea leaves into the playoff discussion at this point in the season. And still a lot of football left to be played, don't get me wrong, but the Rams look very much so like a contender in the NFC. And if the 49ers can notch 2 wins under their belt against this team, I think that's going to go a long way, not only with, your division schedule or your division record matters a lot in the NFL. And obviously every win is big, but also for the confidence of a team that's patchwork together and trying to just plug all the holes that they can in the boat to stop it from leaking. And not only are they doing that pretty well, but they're able to keep on pushing, and they've won 6 games this season. I mean, this is a team that just doesn't have the quitter gene in them. This team just will never die and just keeps going. And hopefully you can keep that kind of mentality against the Rams this week. And we should probably take our last break right here. So on the other side, instead of getting into it right now, we'll give you our picks. And Brian, last week, I know you had to run a little bit early, so you didn't get to give us your pick, but I'm just going to let you know now, Dwayne and I both went against the 49ers just for the voodoo magic, and it worked. I'm just throwing that out there.
Where we're going with this? Yeah, that makes sense, because I think I've been wrong just about every single week too. I don't think Las Vegas is doing very good on the 49ers this year either.
Got to bring that voodoo doll out again, man, and put the pins in.
Well, we'll see what kind of voodoo we can cook up on the other side of the Locked On 49ers Squad show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Brian Peacock, host of the Locked On 49ers podcast, and Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion. And guys, real straightforward. Let's start with you, Dwayne. Who's going to win this week, the 49ers or the Rams, and what's your final score?
I was just thinking, the game in L.A., the 49er faithful showed up. It was like a second home game, and now they're coming home to play in the 49ers stadium. I think the 49ers should open the gate about 2 hours earlier than normal. So with that, my pick, I'm still going to have to stay the course. Can they stop the Rams offense? I don't think so. Not with the wounded guys they got playing. So I'm going with the Rams 27-24.
I like that, Dwayne. Open the stadium 2 hours early. Free drinks for the first hour of that too. Just get the whole place lubed up and ready to go for the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams should be favored in this game, and I think they are. I haven't looked at the line, actually. I think it was 3.5 did it open? Okay, so it's moved to 4.5. So the Rams are favored by 4.5, and I think they should be favored in this game. And just the way things are going this season, picking against the 49ers has been really good mojo for the 49ers. So I'm definitely going to keep that going. And I do think that the Rams are just playing pretty good football right now on both sides of the ball. And obviously the 49ers, even, they've still been winning a lot of games despite all the injuries, but they are a little bit light. And so the Rams probably should be favored in this game. But the 49ers are at home. And so I do think that they can keep it close and maybe closer than that 4.5. And in the end, I think it's not going to be a bunch of fireworks as far as the scoreboard goes. I think Dwayne would probably put the score in a similar place, something like 23-20. I'm going to go Rams in this one.
And I think that we got to. I think I got to jump on board to complete the voodoo trifecta that we've been using to generate 49ers wins here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm going to go 23-20 Rams. I'm going to say that the 49ers cover, but don't win. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think this game comes down to a field goal either way. I think that you see these two teams battle each other pretty close most times that they meet, and as you said, two coaches that know each other really, really well, two teams that know each other's tendencies really, really well. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for either one to get a much separation from the other one in this one. We saw overtime last time these guys played. I think that it is going to be a field goal difference, 23-20, or that was your score. I'm going to say 28-27, Rams win. So there you have it. All three of us picking the Rams, but hey, we're 2-0 when we all pick the opponent. So let's try and make it 3-0 here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the show. It's been a fun one, and it'll be a fun matchup when the 49ers and the Rams get going on Sunday. Battle for NFC West supremacy on deck. We'll hope that the 49ers can pull it out. That's all the time we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, for Brian Peacock and Dwayne Board. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Yeah.